U.S. government plans for Afghanistan are unknown to me, and I suspect most Americans. Like a psychologically shrunken Kronos, we could consume just a third of Afghanistan, drawing a line in the sand from coast to Mazar-e-Sharif, and reinforce our large northeast third of the country from Kabul for the benefit of the Northern Alliance and willing Pashtun. The rest of Afghanistan could be allowed to return to a feral status, fought over by terrorists, fundamentalists, and Pakistani secret intelligence agencies. The U.S. government just makes sounds about being in Afghanistan for years, and the British talk about a generation of commitment by the United States to borrowing money from China to pour money into that leaky border bucket. Radio in the USA is a kind of ad hoc mafia training and control device owned by the rich. Its use as a political control mechanism abroad is probably similar. The role of Afghanistan in U.S. policy objectives is uncertain, vaguely referred to in U.S. government communiques to the public as a place where terrorists, Taliban, or whomever might form if we left, or where women would be repressed and good guys beheaded by a Jacobian reaction, purging insurgentaries and victory. We just need to surge troops and be there or be square with lots of expensive support contractors. How many contractors are we still paying for in Iraq as a hidden U.S. auxiliary army? Evidently, Afghanistan was used by Pakistan as a tool to threaten or tactically flank India within areas like Kashmir. Terrorists trained in Pakistan and Afghanistan fought in Kashmir. Most of the frontier area terrorists wandering in and out of Afghanistan were trained in Pakistan. I am learning several new concepts from Isby's book, Afghanistan. Probably my remedy for the problem would differ from Isby's. Afghanistan's future role, even if America can intimidate enough Taliban potential locals into sitting on their hands for a few years, is uncertain because of Pakistan's view of Afghanistan as a chip to form for their own security. The leaky bucket of Afghanistan may be hard to repair. Any potential government composition could form if the USA just withdrew. The U.S. government isn't very plain about its policy toward Pakistan either. Why not secure a third of Pakistan for a Northern Alliance Afghanistan, along with friendly Pashtun, and enrich and defend that, and let the rest of the nation cook in its own juices? Securing a third of Afghanistan would enable us to have a base to defend against al-Qaeda operatives and terrorists in Pakistan sanctuaries if or when they attack U.S. interests. It would secure the peace for the just and righteous, reasonable people of Afghanistan and cost American taxpayers just a third of the present expense. The war on terrorism has a global reach today. In New York, the mosque near Ground Zero is a kind of declaration by al-Qaeda of victory and increase of the realm of the Ummah through war. The late Taliban terrorist of Pakistan, Batullah Masood, said, "There are no borders in Islam." Page 63, Afghanistan, the Graveyard of Empires, by Isby. The mosque near Ground Zero is a declaration of that point, where Sharia law is preeminent over American law, symbolically. Within the first second of this universe, 99% of the matter existing was annihilated by antimatter, releasing energy, yet not anti-energy, perhaps dark energy. Antimatter is like matter, yet it is formed to spin in an opposite direction. Because the chirality or spin pattern of matter has a slight advantage over the left-handed spin of antimatter, just a fraction of a percent of matter survived over antimatter when the recombination of matter and its missing antimatter partner in being, non-being, occurred within the first second of the universe. We may draw a moral lesson if that happened. We may draw a moral lesson from this emergence of matter in the early universe that provided the material for stars, galaxies, planets, and us. There are anti-spiritual powers in a comparable way, at war on the spirit to cancel it out, too. As in the emergent victory of matter over antimatter in the beginning, there shall be a remnant, too, of survivors of faith in spirit and in Jesus Christ. In Goethe's play Faust, Mephistopheles says, "I am the spirit that always negates, and rightly so, because everything that comes to be is worthy of destruction." In the beginning, a battle in heaven was fought, and good triumphed over evil. The anti-spirit is contained for all time, yet is loosed for a while in a controlled way. Jesus Christ will save the elect, however. There are troubles in this universe aplenty. because of the intrinsic nature of original sin, or thermodynamic evolution of the forms of matter and energy from what may be a big bang toward the axis of evil, we shall overcome. The policy of the United States in Afghanistan is a double bind. Most in the region believe we shall leave eventually, and as long as we stay with an ineffective policy that is costly and harmful to U.S. interests in domestic economic development and thus national security because the opportunity costs are high, Al-Qaeda can claim to be winning the financial war. Rather than try to garrison the world, we should support our friends and leave everyone else to their own devices, blasting them with superior weapons technology if we must, if they attack U.S. interests. Pakistan and Iran may have a nuclear war one day as Shia-Sunni religious philosophies conflict, or Pakistan may launch missiles upon Washington, D.C., Boston, or San Francisco with new and improved long-range capabilities. So the United States has an interest in observing, yet not occupying, these potentially harmful nations as well as global Mohammedan terrorist and terror support organizations. Britain is an essential conduit for Muslims with British passports to attack the USA. There are nearly 1 million Pakistani Brits living in England able to fly to the USA whenever. It would be helpful to American voters to know if the U.S. government is really competent in its Central Asian and Pakistan policy, and if it has an affordable, functional business model for Afghanistan that can be done within 5 years. Expecting Pakistan to work in that leaky bucket geographic region with so many foreign interests and prosperous provocateurs is like expecting Vietnamization to work following the U.S. withdrawal from the Republic of Vietnam. While the Northern Alliance is tough and President Karzai's father was assassinated by Taliban terrorists for plotting to resist their takeover of the country, and so is probably not one to be willingly reconciled with some forms of Taliban political authority, which is basically impossible anyway, the U.S. could afford to defend an independent northern Afghanistan that could have reconciliation talks with the Southwest if they ever depleted their resources of terrorists and wanted to unify with their northern, mostly non-Pashtun fellow country persons. Pakistan's exploitation of Afghanistan for its own policy objectives for defensive advantage versus India, as well as traditionally at obsolete concerns about Russia seeking surfing and vacation spots on its ocean front, makes formation of a balanced policy by the United States difficult. I wonder what it really is, and if it passed on beyond the comparatively short time duration of a U.S. presidential administration.